Everyone, in today's session, we are going to see project resource smoothing. Myself, Satish Thalange, Assistant Professor in Department of Civil Engineering, Walchand Institute of Technology, Solapur. At the end of the session, the observer will have the knowledge about the optimizing the resource allocation without changing the project deadline, or you can say a duration. Introduction. The project management require the balancing time as well as the cost and the resource. Here, the resource smoothing ensure the optimal utilization of the resource without affecting the project deadline, or you can say the duration. Here, we have to go with the overall focus on the critical activities as well as non-critical activities. And with the help of the non-critical activities, we can go with the maintaining the workflow efficiently. And it is also helping us to have the movement of the non-critical activities for the resource smoothing. Let's see what the resource smoothing. A technique to adjust a project schedule by shifting the non-critical tasks, or you can say activities, with the utilization of the floats associated with the non-critical activities. Here, the important goal is to have the ensure about the demand which should not exceed the available resource. And here finally, the resource smoothing technique use the slacks and the floats associated with the activities and the event, which is really helpful for the resource smoothing without extending the project deadline. Now, the importance of resource smoothing. The most important first point is to prevent resource bottleneck. Here, the overall, the stable and the efficient utilization of the resource will help to have the team to avoid the sharp peak demand as well as valley in the resource. To the next, it helps to improve the moral and the productivity output. To the next, it reduces the project risk. As we know, the overall, the resource available for the overall activities, or you can say the resource associated with the individual activities. By identifying the non-critical activities, we can have the overall the movements of the resource of the non-critical activity to the activities which are necessary to be done. They are the critical one. So with the help of this, it also reduces the overall risk associated with the project. And finally, it enhances the utilization of the resource. The effective and the consistent utilization of the resource will help us to have the continuous output regarding the overall project execution. Now, the role of the project network diagram. The network diagram will help us to have the overall the construction of the network and to show the interdependency between the activities. It helps us to declare the project duration as well as the critical path. Along with that, it will help us to identify the slacks and the floats associated with the events and the activities. This will declare the critical activities and the non-critical activities in the overall project. Once we come to know the overall the critical and non-critical activity, with the help of the non-critical activity, we can have the utilization of the resource smoothing technique. We can optimally smoothen the resource with the all the activities in the project. Now let's see the steps in the resource smoothing. As we know, the project schedule with the resource is much more important. Here we have to overall construct the overall project network, and we have to declare the critical path and the activities which are non-critical activities and the critical activity ones. Once we know the critical path, with the help of that, we can go with the construction of time scale diagram, which is called as a a overall the a presentation of the network of a project with the time scale, and we can construct the resource histogram. This resource histogram helps us to know what is exactly the peak demand, or you can say the high demand of the resource for the particular activity as well as the for the respective duration. With the help of this, once we come to know the critical activities and the non-critical, as we know, we can move the non-critical activities with the utilization of the float associated with that. Once we move the non-critical activities, we have to go with the a cross check about the overall what may be the histograph, which will highlight you the overall the movements of the resource of the non-critical activities in the overall project. You have to adjust this particular histograph until the overall we achieve the balance in the resource utilization, or you can say optimum utilization of the resource. Here the non-critical activities are used for the overall the movements of the overall the resource. The tools for the resource smoothing. Here there are some of the tools which are being shown here. The project management softwares like Microsoft Project and the Primavera. The visual presentations, like you can say the graphical presentation, you can say the Gantt chart, or you can say bar chart, are also helpful for the overall identifying the task, interdependency and the float associated with that. The network diagrams as well as the resource histographs, which are used for the overall to know what is exactly the demand of the resource for the particular activity for the respective duration. Finally, the resource smoothing is a critical task for the optimizing the resource allocation in a project. By smoothing, or you can say also the leveling, the floats are to be used. Okay, here we have to go with the cross check about the floats associated with the network diagram. Here in this particular, we have to identify the float associated with the activities in the overall project, and the project manager can create a more efficient and the stable workflow. Finally, this approach ensures a project resource demand are balanced, leading to better team performance, reduced risk and improve the stakeholder satisfaction, which will finally help us to have the project successful completion without disturbing its original deadline, or you can say project duration. These are the references for the today's session. Thank you. Thank you very much.